Hello and welcome to the Mama Africa podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the version of this video on YouTube, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from this podcast and the main one dropping it tomorrow. Follow us on social media and, of course, join us for more. You are welcome. And it was the third round of the group stages of the African Champions League, and it was a pretty interesting one, in fact. And let's start from Group A, of course. It kicked off on Friday with Al-Merrikh facing Al-Hilal Omdurman in a pretty decent Sudanese derby, to be fair. It was better than most games in this group, to be fair. But this game, I think, only reiterates and confirms, I would say, my opinion and my thought about this group and about Al-Merrikh in particular. I thought they're the only side out of the Sudanese two that could really put a fight to qualify in this group, and I think the two games coming really helped him for that. He won the first, of course. They won the first, Al-Merrikh, 2-1. It was a pretty back and forth game, although Al-Hilal had a couple more chances to score than Al-Merrikh. Certainly Al-Merrikh were very efficient with their ones, and they, of course, finished the deal since the first half. El Samani Sadaddin scoring a couple of goals, 2 goals for Al-Merrikh, while Mohammed Abdurrahman scored the only goal for Al-Hilal. It was the equalizer in the 32nd minute, while the 42nd minute saw Al-Merrikh add the second and what turned out to be the winner in that group. I still believe Al-Merrikh are the better side again, and now with 4 points in their bank, and they have another game against Al-Hilal, so that could be a big advantage for them. If they get 6 points out of those two, I think they have a pretty strong chance to qualify from that group. They definitely deserve it, I would say. Probably alongside Sundowns it will be, which transitions us to the second game in that group, which is Al-Ahli versus Mamelodi Sundowns. And I mean, is it every year we're going to see this from Al-Ahli? Is it every year we're going to see them, doing bad in the group stages only to reach the final? I mean, granted, it won't happen each year, but realistically speaking, this game against Mamelodi Sundowns probably had the markings of that. Obviously, they have been meeting a lot quite recently. They met almost like it felt like almost they met every year. I mean, they didn't, but it almost feels like that. Bitsu Mosimane was, of course, facing a former side again against his the other coach, Mankuba Minkitusu. The guy, I mean, Al-Ahli sort of were the better side in this game. I really understand, maybe the frustration of the Egyptian fans if they want to. They had 23 shots overall in the game. Mamelodi Sundowns entered the game pretty much, kind of conservative, playing with 3 at the back, trying to fill the midfield, playing with wing backs, dropping back and all of that, and only relying on counter-attacks. And in fact, it was counter-attacks that got them the sole goal of the game, and it came at a really crucial time at 85th minute. It came at a time where Al-Ahli were absolutely raising the bar for their attacks. They missed a couple of big opportunities right before the goal. Mamelodi Sundowns, on pretty much, particularly in the second half, on pretty much the one true opportunity they got to score in all of that half. Tapelo Morena managed to make it 1-0 for Sundowns. Pretty beautiful finish, by the way, in the right corner, and Chanel was absolutely unable to do anything about it. Mamelodi Sundowns take the points home and absolutely put themselves in pole position, not just to qualify but at the top of the group, because I think that qualification is just a matter of time. Are they going to do the same feat in the second game in South Africa? If they do so, I think that really amplifies the situation for Al-Ahli, who we all thought, the first game, the draw against Al-Hilal, was fine, just because they returned from the FIFA Club World Cup, but I think this now is unforgivable as far as Al-Ahli is concerned, and obviously the second game in South Africa in mid-March is going to be very crucial for their qualification. And obviously, actually, they play 2 games in March. They play the first game against Al-Merrikh. Of course, big advantage is at home. And then, of course, they face Mamelodi Sundowns in the 4th game, or in the 4th round in South Africa. So these 2 games are, I would say, 4 points out of 6 is the bare minimum, I think, for Al-Ahli, if they want to stamp their way through qualification and don't have any problems and don't enter in any sort of hard calculations anyway. The standings from this group, of course, Mamelodi Sundowns 7 points, Al-Merrikh with 4 points, as well as Al-Ahli with 1 point. Obviously, they still didn't face each other in the first game, and Al-Hilal Omdurman definitely out of it at the moment with 1 point at the bottom. To Group B, and there was an apparent difference in the luck for the North African sides in that one. Amazulu hosted Setif in South Africa, and lost after yet another defensive, let's say, performance from them. After a defensive outing for them, they tried to be conservative as usual for Nabil Kouki. This time around, a 4-3-3 was with much more defensive intent and trying to play on the counter. They had their moments though. Also, Amazulu had their moments in the first half. I mean, they missed a big one in the first half right before scoring. The goal of the game. Beautiful goal, by the way, from Luvuyo Mamela. A wonderful shot that went past Setif's goalkeeper Zakaria Bouhalfaya. I think Setif are just paying the price for being too defensive at certain points. The periods where they just accept the pressure and invite the pressure from the other team is certainly been their downfall in the last couple of games. Obviously, in the first game they escaped with it, they scored, they won, but in the second and third game it was pretty different, and they had they have much work to do, I think, in the second leg in Algeria if they want to stay in contention for the qualification. A team that won't be apparently in contention for the qualification is going to be Horoya Conakry. They lost yet again to Raja Casablanca, and that probably eliminates them from any discussion of going through that group. Raja Casablanca, again, it was a hard game for the Moroccan side, and for the third time in a row they find themselves winning by a tight scoreline that doesn't exactly translate the superiority of the Raja Casablanca. I mean, at home, returning against crowds, the fact is Horoya were much dangerous, even so. But again, when you have one shot on target and you score it and you win the game, nobody can really blame you. But Horoya Conakry were much dangerous, particularly on set pieces. Definitely, Raja Casablanca try to contain the Horoya players as much as they can. Obviously, 9 points out of 9 for them is going to be always welcome. But again, the game against them in Guinea might be really hard. I don't think it will affect them in qualification. I don't think they will necessarily lose there per se, because Horoya lost at home, in fact, to Amazulu in the second game. But definitely, Raja Casablanca need to perform better than this if they want to assert themselves as one of the favourites to win the title, because that should be the end game for a team like Raja Casablanca, a side that is very experienced in Africa. Amazulu is 6 points now behind them. I think they're in a pretty decent position to qualify, but obviously in the second game in Algeria against the Setif, this is going to be defining for both sides. Obviously for Setif, they need to win to stay in the contention in the qualification, and for Amazulu, probably 1 point would be good to really get closer and closer to qualification. For all of them, Raja Casablanca leads the group by 9 points with a perfect record, 3 goals and none conceded. Amazulu 6 points, Setif with 3 points, and Horoya, of course, bottom of the table with 0 points. To my favourite group in this campaign, in this Champions League, and it's Group C, of course, and it kicked off in style, I would say, on Saturday afternoon with Esperance playing against Etoile Sportive du Sahel, and this was a great game, by the way, straight out of the bat. This was really the best game of the week. I definitely think so. This was a pretty, the atmosphere was absolutely missed in Tunisia. The crowds like that. I think it's the first significant presence of a crowd in Tunisia in any kind in football. It was pretty revelating, and it was pretty exciting and uplifting, I would say, from the usual mood that the Tunisian football has been in there. Esperance, of course, ended this game, let's be honest, as favourites to win. The whole situation for Etoile Sportive du Sahel, their performances in the competition and outside of it in the league, although the league hasn't returned yet in Tunisia for them, they didn't play yet their games. So the whole situation inside of football and outside of football for them really gave the sign that this game should be Esperance's game to win. It wasn't to be, though. The first half was pretty amazing from Etoile. They had a pretty great defensive resilience. They were very organised. Their centre midfielders was absolutely brilliant. Both Shakim Bey and Motaz Zadam were absolutely brilliant in the defensive department. And also, whenever they had the opportunity to transition quickly, they did it. Esperance, though, I mean, they played the better football, let's say. They played the more slick football, quick transitions, going through the midfield with no Fousseni Koulibaly halting the play. The ball became smoother in transition up forward to the strikers. but you know the efficiency really is lacking at the moment. Kingsley Edo is not given 100% yet, although it's not his like 10th or 11th game to judge. It's only his 3rd game, but obviously in a side like Esperance, development, I mean, should somehow come quickly, and you should come good in a short time with coaching and all. The second half was much more one-sided than the first half, because the first half at least Etoile had smidges of opportunities, particularly a great one head-to-head, like right on the 6-yard box for Suleiman Koulibaly, but he didn't score and he fluffed his finish. In the second half it was more one-sided. Esperance hit the post, hit the crossbar in the first half, they hit the post in the second. The goalkeeper Ali Jmal was absolutely brilliant for Etoile Sportif de Sahel. It was definitely man of the match, deservedly. The defense did absolutely brilliant. Late red card for Etoile almost threatened this game to go towards Esperance and just to favour the sides a little bit, but definitely the draw was a fair result, I would say. Esperance were not efficient in their finishing. They missed glorious opportunities in some of them to score. Some better decision making could have made a difference. For Etoile, they were resilient defensively, and they deserved really to get a draw out of there. It's a disappointing draw, just like the first and the second one, I would say. Maybe just because Esperance were actually better on the pitch, unlike the first couple of games where Etoile were in some way, equal to their opponents or even better than them. In the case of the game against Galaxy away. Speaking of Galaxy, of course, they lost to Wydad 2-1 at home. And this almost went to a draw. This almost was a draw, just like the last time out against Etoile Sportif de Sahel. This was all about the late stages of the game, in the last 20 minutes. In the 77th minute, Wydad opened the scoring thanks to Khairuddin Marzouki, and then Gilbert Barouti equalised in the 84th minute before Marzouki again returns in the 93rd minute to make it 2-1 for Wydad. This is a crucial victory for them. As far as qualification is concerned, 5 points right behind Esperance Sportif de Sahel, and definitely right behind Etoile, Esperance, sorry, and Etoile with 3 points at 3rd, Galaxy 1 point at the very bottom. Obviously the second game is going to be Wydad against Galaxy in Algeria. That's probably 3 points in the bag, I would say, and of course for Esperance it's against Etoile again in Radas, but this time it's Etoile who are the predominative hosts in this one, and have their crowds be present and their supporters be present in the game. It's a tough situation for Etoile, but still, any result against Esperance could turn this around. If they win or they draw, they're still in it pretty much within a shout. And they have, of course, a game against Galaxy at home, although the last game for them will be really tough because they're going to be travelling to face Wydad away from home in Algeria. So that's the standings for this group. Esperance 5 points, Wydad 5 points, 3 for Etoile, and Galaxy 1 point at the bottom. In Group D, of course, and we're not going to focus even on the Angolese derby between Sagrada Esperanza and Petro Atletico. It was 1-0 for Petro. They were the better side, clearly. Of course, they dominated the debutants in the competition. Sagrada Esperanza, they won 1-0, and they improved their position at the top of the table with 7 points. The second and the third team in this group at the moment, Wydad Casablanca and Zamalek, met, but obviously, as I mentioned in the preview, this was a perfect opportunity for Wydad Casablanca to beat Zamalek. They're not in a good position at the moment domestically and in Africa. Their start was pretty rough, and with the 2 draws that they had, particularly the one against Sagrada was pretty bad. I mean, let's say the one against Petro Luanda was, their own making and making mistakes in defense and all of that, but against Sagrada Esperanza, there's no excuse really to draw. And this was even, this wasn't a bad result per se. A draw would have been a bad result for them. I mean, in the second half, they were the better side. They started pretty well in the game, and they scored as early as 3 minutes thanks to Zizo. But definitely from that moment on, Wydad Casablanca took the game by the scruff of the neck. Obviously, supported and really in charge by their crowds and their supporters returning to the stadium, just like in the Raja Casablanca game. This was absolutely brilliant atmosphere for the game. It was a classic North African derby, and Walid Regragi's side is absolutely playing some of the best football at the moment. I think bar the Atletico Petroleum game, it's definitely great campaign so far for them, and the other couple of games for Wydad, they have been playing slick football. And again, they dominated the game since then. A couple of quick fire goals from Zuhail Mutraji and Amir Farhan in the 27th and 37th minute in the first half, turning things around, ending the first half 2-0. And then, of course, in the second half, Yahya Jabran managed to make it 3-1 in 88 minutes. Zamalek, a decent game from them, away from home in particular, considering the circumstances, but I don't see them really, I don't see them playing better at home in Egypt. I think probably they will be also supported and really well done by their supporters in Cairo, but I doubt it that it will play better than what they could here. It seems to be they're a mess at the moment. Patrice Carteron is not getting the tactics right, and it's definitely not doing that well when it comes to the particularly the attacking department. Where they're trying to create opportunities, but they're not actually finishing them anyway. For Wydad Casablanca, it's a big victory. Obviously, they're keeping behind Petro Luanda at 1 point apart. For Zamalek, 2 points now. And it's pretty tough, and the fourth game is going to be against Wydad once again. So really expect them to maybe lose again. I would say I generally see Wydad Casablanca beating Zamalek again, even in Egypt, and really improving their position while putting more dirt on Zamalek, who might be facing the risk of being eliminated out of the group stage of the Champions League for the second year in a row. And this time, I would say it would be much cleaner, quote-unquote, for Zamalek than what it was last year, according to them, if you believe conspiracy theories and anything like that. So the standings of this group: 7 points for Petro Luanda, 6 points for Wydad Casablanca, 2 for Zamalek, and 1 for the debutants Sagrada Esperanza. Thanks for the listening, watching. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from this episode and the main podcast dropping tomorrow. Of course, follow us on social media and always help us on the road. Thank you. I was your boy, the HD of the PSP. Take care, and until next time, goodbye. Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.